Welcome back to Going For It with Becker. In this episode, I sit down with a powerhouse real estate agent out of Ashland City, Tennessee, who I found to be incredibly bright, intelligent, and refreshingly direct. This agent brings a rare combination of massive production, closing over 153 sales and 50 million in volume alone last year. And even with the chaos that comes with that amount of business, she still is able to maintain a pleasant disposition. This conversation was with the one and only Amanda Bell. Today I am with Amanda Bell, who is out of Ashland City, Tennessee, and that's near Nashville, is it not?
It is. It is. It's actually located centrally between Nashville and Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what should we know about you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I never really set out to be a real estate agent. Life just kind of happened, and I started out by saying, I'm just going to do this part time. And it just kind of grew into a necessity. And now I own my own brokerage. So I don't know. I just believe that sometimes life just throws you in the direction that you're supposed to go, and that's what happened. So I'm not doing too bad.
Yeah. I no, you're doing amazing. I had a friend that in college gave me a quote and I wrote it down and I carried it around in my wallet for a long period of time. And see if I can remember this correctly. Life turns out the best for those who make the best out of the way things turn out.
I can understand that. I have a different quote, and my thing is because I go and I'll talk to especially young ladies, and my quote is I didn't mean to be me. So the whole purpose behind that is that we set out with this direction in life, whether it be as a young person, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have two kids and I'm going to live on the beach or whatever that dream is. I didn't intend to set out in life, get married, get divorced 2 years later, own my own real estate company. Like, I didn't mean to end up where I'm at like that. I never intended it. I didn't manifest it. It just happened. So the important thing I think is that we embrace wherever we're at in life, learn
Yep.
everything we can about it, and then that just helps us do that something that much better. I mean, I started out as an accounting major. I have a degree in textiles merchandising and design. I was married to a contractor to begin with. So, like, all of these things have kind of helped make me a better real estate agent on where I'm at now.
Yeah, you said you didn't necessarily manifest it, but something manifested. Something is attracting this business, and the people that want to work with you is coming from somewhere somehow. What is that? Do you think? What is it? It's not that you just get out of bed in the morning. There's something happening there that has to be intentional, I would say.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, there are people that get up, there's agents that get up every morning and they're like, I want to contract three houses today. I want to sell three houses today. I want to list, two houses today. And for me, you will hear me say, I want to help three people today, or I want to help two people today. Um, I firmly believe that, our code of ethics says first and foremost that we put the interest of our clients above our own. And I will never be one of those agents that is like, I absolutely will not pay for a termite inspection just to get this deal done. I want my 3% or I want my 2.5 or whatever it is. And I've always said that a dollar today is more than a dollar that I had yesterday. And so I think that if you really approach your clients as an investment, right? Short term, long term, short term in that you're getting a commission out of it long term, in that you're getting referrals. Like, that is how my business has been so sustainable, is like treating your clients, number one, as the most important, but number two, looking at them as an investment. If you invest in them, they're going to give you a good return. And that's just how everything has always been. And it's been very successful for me.
It sounds like you really embody and live the first fundamental that we have in our business plan. And I don't know if you've read through that at the level of detail, but you're already doing it. And the very first business fundamental that I preach all the time, as a matter of fact, I just did another video for it for our Spark that we send out on a daily basis. But that is to become the professional that you would actually hire yourself. That's the standard. And
Right.
I see so many agents that have standards of what they expect from people and how they expect to be treated by people, but rarely do I see them living up to that standard on the other side of the fence to give that type of service to people or to be even aware of it. And
Mm-hmm.
and I really believe that when you become somebody who chooses to be the person that they would hire, and it may be natural for you, for others, something that they have to work at, and that's okay. We all start from where we start from. But when you're doing that, you show up differently. You show up with a sunny disposition. Your touch points are better. You care deeper. You do the work and prepare at a deeper level before you show up with the clients. And I think something really interesting happens is that we start to, people that are doing that, start to believe that they are the best option for their clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not so much that you're trying to get the business. You're in a position where you feel if somebody chose somebody else, they're not going to get the care. They're not going to get the extra level of service, and it's more of a concern for that client. But I every time I say that in a room full of average real estate agents, I kind of get this eye roll. And when I'm talking about this fundamental, and I ask them, raise your hand if you would if you didn't know you, would you hire yourself? And 99% of the room raises their hand. Well, 70% of them aren't doing any business, and so this is a little bit of self-deception. But share with me a little bit if that resonates with you. Do you believe in that? Do you have something else that's parallel to that? Because
Um,
that's what it sounds like, the foundation of your business, in
yeah,
essence.
it is. And I mean, and I understand, that my personality is very straightforward. It's very blunt, it's very honest. I tell people, um, I'm not here to sell you a house. I'm here to advise you. One of the things that I tell my agents is be a service, not a product. A lot of times I compare it to TurboTax versus a CPA. TurboTax, you push all the buttons, it spins information back out at you. A CPA actually advises you. They give you information that you wouldn't otherwise have, mostly based on experiences. Well, it's the
Right.
same thing with a real estate agent. Like, you're not hiring me just to open doors, just to write contracts. Like, you're paying me for what I call my intellectual property. Experiences that I've had over the last 23 years, things that I've learned not to do, just different things to look for. And that's really what you're hiring me for. But in the same breath, like, I don't sugarcoat anything. And sometimes that personality doesn't work out. I mean, I did have a guy that got really upset with me because he did exactly what I told him not to do, and he
Yep.
didn't get the house.
Yep.
And I said, "Well, did you honestly expect a different outcome?" And he got really upset with me. And I said, "Look, I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. I'm not going to lie to you. If you need a realtor that's going to give you fluff, then you do need to work with somebody else." And he did work with somebody else. And I just have to be okay with that, because you're asking me to go against something that's been very successful for me. And I think that the majority of my clients appreciate, um, just seeing the line for what
Yep.
it is.
Yep. In our business, Amanda, we argue with our clients ad nauseum.
Yeah.
And we share with them, look, we are arguing for this because we believe it's right. It may not be right, but our experience has shown that it's right far more than it isn't right, and they have to make their own decisions for themselves, because they're the ones that pay the consequences,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the CEOs of their own business. But I really believe that, and this is, I think, the same thing that you're saying, is that us arguing with our clients is a tremendous value, because in the real estate world, and I'm sure you experience this all the time, is very few people want to tell you what you need to hear. They tell you
Mm-hmm.
what you want to hear because they want your favor and they want your business. But I always put it this way, that if you have someone in your life that you really care for, a brother or a sister, a spouse, a child, and they're doing something that is detrimental, and you don't say anything, are you really someone who loves them?
No.
Right.
Mm-mm.
And so you have to be, and I think that's what a good business person is, and a good advisor is you have to argue for what you believe, and still have the humility that maybe you're not right 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's really important. So how long have you been doing this, Amanda?
It'll be 23 years come April 23rd.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit about how it started for you, and give me a little bit of a timeline.
Well, like I said, I have a degree in textiles, merchandising, and design. And my first husband, he was in the construction business. We had just built our first house together, and we decided that we were going to build and sell spec homes. That's what we were going to do. And I wasn't going to do anything other than that first. But as you know, there's quite a bit of upfront cost to begin with. And
Yep. It's a
so
risky
from
business depending upon what happens in the macroeconomics, for sure.
hmm It is. And so I decided, to try to sell a couple just to offset the initial cost. And life just happened, and we ended up divorced that same year. And
Wow.
so it
What do
became,
you think that it was, being in business together and the pressure of the spec homes led to
we
that,
never made it
or
that far. Mm-mm.
yep.
I got my real estate license. He did not get his contractor's license. He got a girlfriend instead.
Oh, okay. Well, that
So
can be
that
distracting.
was yeah, so that was the end of it. But
Yeah.
no, I don't think it had anything to do with anything else. But real estate became, a full-time, part-time job. So I had basically two jobs. I'd go to my regular 9 to 5 job, I'd get off
What
there,
was
I'd
that?
go do I worked for an interior design company at the time.
Okay. All right.
So I did that, and then I would leave there, go to the office, because at that time there was more walk-ins and calls than there was internet leads. And I mean, we were still functioning on pagers at that point.
Right.
So I would do that on nights, weekends, and holidays. And I would say that my first year, which was April to December of 2003, I only did three transactions that year, because between the divorce and my father was ill, it just was more. I couldn't make decisions for myself, so I didn't feel
Right.
like I could help other people make decisions. So I took some time off. January 1, I was like, okay, I got to make this happen. I need the money. And so my first year, I had 1.6 million in net sales. So not bad, not bad. And so it just kind of steadily grew from there. And then in 2007, I decided to open my own office, and my goal was three closings a month. That's what I needed, was three a month.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just greedy, and I want almost 160 a year.
Well, you're pretty damn close to that.
My
Um,
goal was 156, and had some not pushed over to January, I would have met my goals.
Yeah. Part of it is, if I'm and I'm making some assumptions, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But this business, that if you provide great service and you continue to put yourself out there and you stay focused, time takes care of a lot of things, and the business compounds over a period of time. And what I see so many times is real estate agents are always playing the short game. They're always trying to get the quick fix
Right.
versus allowing time. We talked about Warren Buffett a little bit earlier, but he just buys quality and he lets time do its thing.
Mhm.
And in real estate agents like you who provide quality and a high level of service and do the things that they need to, that business starts to compound. So when you've been doing this for 23 years, being consistent and always showing up, that has huge advantages, because all of those people that you have sold homes, there's a very good likelihood that you'll get the opportunity to sell when they have a need. They have referrals. And then as you have more and more signs around town, you become considered by people that are looking for homes. Gosh, I see Amanda's sign everywhere. We should call her. And that's the process. And were you born with that ability to look at the long game, or was that something that was taught to you? Because it seems like you have this. We talked about it on our call last week, the coaching. Was that last week? With Brian Shudo, where he was talking aggressive patience. Were you on that call by any chance?
I wasn't. I was out of the country.
Yeah. So the ability to be patient, to do the work, and to allow time to do its thing. How were you able to develop a mindset to have the patience?
I don't know that I have patience. I can tell you that I remember in so I just opened my office October of 2007. 2008 came, and where my office is and where it was that we've never moved, they were doing a renovation renaissance project, they called it. They had taken out 5 parking spaces out in front of our office. They were tearing out the sidewalks. There was no walk-in traffic because people couldn't get to you. And then, of course, the market tanked. And I remember we had not sold anything. There was 3 agents here, me and 2 others at that time, and we had not sold anything in 4 months. And I remember calling my mom and just in tears. And I was like, I just don't think I can do this. Like, I'm going to have to get another job. And my mom was like, well, if you need some money, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. And I was like, no, mom, I can't do this. Like, my initial investment for my real estate office was only $20,000.
Yep.
My first full year in real estate, I had a net loss of 500. You would have thought it was 5 million, because it wasn't that it was only 500. It was you have no borrowing power if you're in the negative.
Yep.
So my first full year was a negative 500. And I was like, I'm going to have to go back to work. And I truly believe in prayer. And I just remember praying, like, please, God, give me something to keep me going. Like, please give me something. And I had reached out to a girl that I had waited tables with, and she was a manager. And I said, hey, I said, I need a job. Like, do you have any openings? And she said, well, I don't this week, but if you'll call me next week, I should. And I don't know what it is, but the floodgates opened, and I went from praying, God, give me something, to Lord, give me the health to keep going. Because in 2010, things really took off, and my sales doubled in 2010. And it's just continued. And my husband will tell you, like, every year I'm like, just wait, it'll slow down, it's going to slow down. And he's like, Amanda, I've been waiting since 2010 for it to slow down for you, and you just keep getting busier and busier. So I think a lot of it, number one, has to do with just prayer, just, believing that you can't do this on your own, and that you have to have help in different ways. But I think a lot of realtors as well get sidetracked easily with the downtime. The downtime is when you should be perfecting your processes and your systems and your organization and stuff like that. It's not a time to just slack off. I mean, we've had terrible weather since Saturday. There's ice and snow everywhere, and I've been at the office every day. And I think people, if they see you working, they're more likely to use you than if they're constantly seeing you play. And I should, I don't not have any fun. But if you're not showing people that you're willing to work and you're willing to put forth the effort and make the sacrifices, because we all know real estate's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice for the
Yeah.
agent, the spouse, the family, the children. It's everybody's all in.
Right.
So you have to be able to make those sacrifices in order to move forward. And I've done podcasts before, and they're like, "What's the one secret that you would tell any agent?" And I'm like, "You got to work. You just have to work." And a lot of people don't get that. That's probably why I don't have a team, because I feel like nobody's going to work as hard as I am.
Yep.
And if they do, they'll be my competition.
Yep. Well, we should talk about the team and hiring people, because one of the things that Kevin Kuntz said about you is that you're a phenomenal CEO of your business, and it's you've trusted in us for a year and a half, 2 years, and hopefully we have made an impact for you in taking over some of those systems and processes. But for you to continue to scale, you have a brand
Mhm.
that is beyond, that can transcend what you can do yourself at this particular point.
Right.
And
And I think
you
Kevin and I have plans to, work on that. Um, and I will also say, and I'm sure that he's told you some, but this last year was very challenging.
yeah,
Um,
let's talk about that for a minute. What happened this last year? I
ugh,
understand you had some setbacks, but I don't know what they were.
yeah. So every January I go out of the country for my birthday, and while I was gone, my stepfather, which my mom has passed away, and he had remarried, but he was still my stepdad.
Yep.
Um, he got really sick, and his dementia got worse.
Yep.
So when I got back, we had to put him in a facility, and my sister and I were in charge of taking care of him. And then my assistant was out for 3 months last year for maternity leave. And then my stepdad got worse, and then he ended up passing away. But, through that, you realize, number one, that, I did hire outside support, but my assistant and I we have refined what we have so well that it's hard to use a virtual assistant. It's hard to have somebody step in.
Yep.
But Kevin and the team there really stepped in and helped me with some things to offload some things that they might not have done for somebody else. And it wasn't permanent, but it was definitely temporary help, because I felt like most of last year I was just swimming to keep my head above water.
Yep.
But I do think at this point that, I am ready, maybe not to start a team, but to help my other agents grow so that, they move up. And I
Yep.
don't feel so much pressure at that point.
Have you read the Team Maker chapter in the business plan?
I've read through all of the stuff in the very beginning, but I need to go back and redo that again.
Okay, so I have the traditional real estate team is something that I am not in favor of,
Right.
because exactly what you say is you bring people in who you support. They potentially are very entrepreneurial, and if they're successful, then they go on and become you and open up their own business, and then they're your competition. And that's not what you're there for. You're there to grow your business for your stockholders, which is you and your family and your husband and everything else. That is the purpose, and for the clients that you serve. And so we have a process or a team making strategy that I call the Beyonce backup dancer business model. And so in this case, you would be Beyonce, and people come to the show for Beyonce, and there would be no show unless it was for that brand. and that you're engaged. Everyone gets to engage with Beyonce, but you also then have the backup dancers that keeps the show going, makes the show better. And this process allows you to systematize parts of the transaction that can be handed off through SOPs and processes, but that you are there at the most significant parts, which is the initial buyer consult, the initial listing consult, the negotiations of the deals, and then the closing. So it's the beginning, the middle, and the end. I've always believed that quote unquote buyer's agents kill businesses long term, because what people do is they just say, okay, take care of this client. And they're there for Beyonce. They're not there for just strictly a backup dancer, which is what they do. And if that backup dancer is amazing, guess what? They then are seen as the agent that helped them, not Amanda Bell. And so we have a very specific system that we actually run on a spreadsheet. There's certain steps, 3 steps that the backup dancer does, and then you come back in, and then 3 more steps, and then you come in. And so you are there, and the quote unquote, the backup dancers, or what we call the associates, are there as your agent, not their agent, your agent. And so the whole communication is, Amanda wants me to do this for you, and Amanda wants me to do this. Amanda's recommending this is happening. So you're constantly engaged, but you can offload about 60 to 70% of the work. And at some point, you will have people that, as you build that process, it allows you to do the things that are most important, which is securing business and building your brand. But at some point, if you have a few of those people, you can then find someone who could be an Amanda and who has that skill that people would feel comfortable with, who can then start taking on some negotiations in those processes. But when you have that person, you create an LLC, and they get to then vest into ownership of the business, so that they're not leaving, they're buying into something that's already spectacular. And you have the ability to buy back if they leave, or whatever the case may be. And if they do that, you then also can have non-competes that are enforceable. Some non-competes aren't enforceable, but non-competes with employees or those types of things are not. But if they're buying into a business, they're absolutely enforceable. So this is a little bit more, and I'll give you another analogy. So it's the doctor nurse. The nurse is saying the doctor wants you to do this, so forth and so on, or an attorney model where you have the main attorney that people go to, but associates will file cases, they'll write briefs, they'll do all of those things, and they're being reviewed. And so that person's value of their time continues to increase. So one of the things that, if you would allow me to suggest some things for you,
Sure.
is that right now, I'm making the assumption, I don't know how your business, but most people, you get a new client and it has a tremendous amount of work that's associated with that client. And so every new client is just more work that comes on board. And so we want to start moving a pendulum where that client is less work and more profit. And you can scale that, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's a time process, but over the next 5-10 years, you can build out a business that's absolutely stable, that now is, you are truly a CEO running a business with a standard of practice that the company is known for. So for me, just in my experience, we have 350 employees. And when I started, I was the cold caller. I did all the cold calling. I did all of the sales. I then was the partnership executive, and I was the bookkeeper and all of those things. We did all of those things. Now I don't do any of those things. The business can operate without me entirely. People hired, people fired, paychecks come and go, that whole process. And it takes time to do that, but that's the value. And it would be a really missed opportunity for you, because you can not only earn more money and build a business that's separate from yourself, but you can ultimately provide a level of service that can be provided to many more people based upon what it is you're doing. And I don't. Does that sound like something you would want to do, or does that scare you to
Maybe
death?
something I would think about.
Yeah, because for me, if something happens with you, if you get sick, if something happens with your husband, you have to have systems and processes in place, because that's, as a CEO, you have to do risk mitigation. What could go wrong?
Right.
And then as a responsible CEO, you have to say, okay, what's my plan? And, I could get with you and Kevin if you wish later on, and we could
Yeah.
dive into some details on how to slowly start in this process. Now, you've had employees and team members before, and so the one thing you have to know is you oftentimes have to kiss some frogs before you find your prince. Sounds
Yep.
like that's what happened with your husband number one, husband number two,
Yeah.
right? And so that's just a part of what that process is. But I just want to encourage you, like, you have such a phenomenal opportunity here to build something that does not require you to breathe every breath of life into it. And I think that's really important, because there are some freaks of nature, and you might be one of them, that you just have so much energy that you keep going. But I really want to encourage you to start looking at, and it's not overnight. This is a very gradual process,
Right.
but to create that vision down the way. I got to go find it. I think I have it in Sacramento in a storage unit. I'm in Florida now. But I have this pyramid that I wrote on the wall that says, this is what I'm doing. And it was the big pyramid. It was everything. And then I had this next stage where I'm doing less and more of the things that I wanted. And it goes up until I'm just strategy and running the business. And I wrote that in 2010. And it was kind of a pipe dream. And I want to find it, because I think I've actually, maybe a little bit differently than what I had originally thought, but I've actually realized that. And if something happened to me, this business could survive, and all of the employees would still have a job and all of those types of things. And that's super important to me. But I want to really encourage that, and dare say argue for it.
I'll think about it.
Okay. I can be persuasive
Kevin will
over a
tell you
period of
that's
time.
better than me just going, no, I'm not doing that.
Well, it's one of those things, like when you see something in a business, or you see something where someone should do something, I feel like I'm you with that guy, because at some point there's a finite amount of time and a finite amount of energy, and you are
Right.
so successful, Amanda. You are incredibly successful, and I know, because I've seen so many other people where they look at it and they go, this is the top, but this actually could just be the beginning if you get that vision. And so anyhow, that's just something I want you to think about. I have another question for you.
What you
You're managing 10 plus closed transactions a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's an SHIT load. That is
I've
a
had more.
ton.
I had 310 at one time.
That's how are you managing your time and your disposition and your relationships And I'm not a fan of people being balanced, like everything has to be balanced. But
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
like how do you handle that?
I think number one that I really enjoy what I do, and that really helps. But I do have a great staff. We have three people. Basically, I have a girl that helps me with accounting. We have a front desk person that helps me with listings. And then I have my transaction coordinator who also takes a little of the office management role on. And between us, we just make it happen. But, when I first got to the point of really making those numbers work, I mean, I would get to the office at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd go, home and I'd stay up till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And as I've gotten older, I can't get here at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I try to get here at like 6:30, 7 at the latest. And then, I go home, I'll cook dinner, get in the bath real quick, and then I'm right back on the computer till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. I value that what I call quiet time when the phone's not ringing and there's not a lot of noise going on and emails have kind of slowed down to just
Yep.
kind of process everything. But for the most part, this business is, my number one priority, which is not always great. And I'm trying to shift that just a little bit. But it's just something that I enjoy and that I'm pretty good at, and it's rewarding to me. So I'm willing to put forth the effort.
I have people all the time in my world who say, "Don't work so hard. Don't work so hard," because this is the primary thing I do. I'm in the office Saturday and Sunday almost all day long, and that quiet time where the phones aren't ringing and people aren't asking questions allows me to be creative in whatever strategies I might want to implement or
Mhm.
new products or services that I want to do. But it's, there are parts of the business that are really can be tough, but for the most part, I feel like I'm playing a video game and I'm just trying to get to the next level. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
It
It's
is.
more
I
of a
mean,
hobby.
some days I feel like I'm playing whack-a-mole between,
Me too.
phone
Yeah.
calls, text messages, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, email, but I also try to probably stay away from the people that say, don't work so much, you work so much. I understand that it takes, all kinds of people to make the world go round, but I like to be with like-minded people. And it's not that I have to have everything, but I like to be with people that are constantly challenging themselves and, understand that, it's not about having more, it's about fulfilling life in a different way. I mean,
Yep.
I believe that there is something out there that I am meant to do that is greater than real estate. I really do. I don't know what it is. I just know that that's how I feel. And it may be real estate that gets me there, but real estate is not going to be my legacy. I don't know what it is, but this is just a stepping stone for me. So I kind of surround myself with other entrepreneurs that are like-minded because they encourage you to continue to learn, to continue to grow, to continue to experience, to grab those
To
new
grow.
experiences. Yeah, because there's, like I said, there's something out there, and if you're not doing all of these things and being open minded to new stuff and challenges and way of learning things and stuff like that, you may miss out on it.
Okay, so you're making my argument
That I need to do business differently. I get it. Okay.
because that other thing that you want to do is most likely only going to be possible if you have the cash flow from this business. But if
You're
you don't
you're
have
probably
the
right.
time or the energy to do that new thing, and so this is where it can be okay, the next step is to build an organization. And I'm talking about slowly. So
Mm-hmm.
it's slow and then it gets faster and then it builds into something. But at that particular point, you then open up your bandwidth for other things and other things that you can excel at. But right now, it's 6:30 in the morning, which means you're getting up at 5:30 or 4:30 or whatever that number is, and then you're till 10 o'clock, and you're providing a hell of a lot of service. But there is, and I agree with you, there's a different level, and I just want to suggest that you being able to do what you're doing right now is an indication of a superhuman. Okay, this is superhuman stuff at this transaction level, and so if we can apply, so in the business plan, which I would encourage you to go back and read through, there's a couple of good nuggets in there, but one of the fundamentals is to be the CEO of the business. And what that means is that you have to take all of the assets that you have, which is your time and your energy and whatever human resources and your network and all of those things, and you have to say, okay, how do I apply these things to get the highest ROI?
Mm-hmm.
And when you start strategizing that way versus just taking on more business versus just saying I need another deal coming in through the door, you start to structure things so that you can manage more.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an exercise that again I can get with you and Kevin and we can kind of play through that. But I just want to encourage you to do that. I also want to say the way that you look at business of helping people. There's a gal out of Atlanta that I did an interview with, and she does 50 or 60 transactions, and she's by herself, and that's a huge amount of business for one person. And I asked her, what has you being so successful? And she says, I never look at a commission check ever. I just look at how I can help somebody. And that's the same thing that you're mirroring here, or what I heard you saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever read the book Adam Grant, who is a professor at Penn State's Business School, but that why givers end up at the top of the ladder and why they stay there. And you strike me as someone who is absolutely a giver.
I don't know. I just, you guys have been a huge help. Anytime somebody calls, Kevin will tell you I'm blatantly honest, and I have appreciated the flexibility in some of the stuff, because like Kevin will tell you some of it, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't have time for that. That's a duplication of work. Let's make this more simple. Or can we do this? And, Kevin's always been like, you know what? Let me find out. Let's see if we can do that. And I've always turned down any other coaching program because I felt like, for the most part, they weren't going to give me what I needed. And this has just been a huge help. And it just comes across in a way that creates accountability, but in the same breath is not overly demanding, and has just really, really, I feel like, has benefited my business more than anything. So you guys have a great product and you should be very proud of it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, we really try to do as much of the work for you as possible. And then, like I say, argue for what we think is best, but you're the CEO. You have to make the decisions for your business. And clearly,
Mm-hmm.
you're very successful and bright, and we should be listening to those things. But if you have a
I want to
board of
know though,
directors, yeah,
are
go
you
ahead.
the one that came up with that point system?
Yes.
Did Kevin tell you what I said about that?
No.
Said, I don't have time to be keeping up with points all day. You work until the work's done.
Yeah.
Just kind of
The
laughed at me.
the point system would not be for you. So I don't do
No.
points at this level of business that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But but it's a way of measuring for people because most agents aren't doing anything that's valuable, and
Right. I get it,
and
but I was
and it's
just like,
kind it's
I'm not
kind
doing that.
yeah, no, it's the point system is for your level of business. No, we need to strategize on how we're getting people doing the things that are the points for you
Yeah.
and that it's profitable. That's a different level. These things are all different. Yes,
Yeah.
and I did that for myself. It's kind of the reverse of the point system of Weight Watchers. Like you count like how many calories, and you can only have so many calories or whatever
Mhm.
the system is, versus the time. And the point system, when I was building the business, is I always was not sure because I would feel guilty if I wasn't exhausted by the time I went to bed. And I wanted to have a way of acknowledging I had done what I could do for the day.
Mhm.
And that's how the system came up. Plus, I wanted to play tennis, and I never felt I became a little addicted to tennis. I can't play anymore because my arm's toast. But I wanted to be able to go out and play tennis and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. Well, that makes
And so,
sense.
and if I double timed with the things and the activities that I needed to do when I was restarting off my business,
Mhm.
and it worked fabulous for me. But for me now in my business, points makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's for the right people at the right time. For you, it's not something for you. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.